As a media person, someone who covers the news, who brings people the news, how do you decide what to cover with a person and a figure like Pope Francis and what not necessarily to cover?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, you know, we speak obviously to more than Catholics, right. So there are certain day-to-day issues that we're not going to bring to a broader audience. But when he makes bold statements or acts in a way that people recognize as meaningful, different, as sending a message, we cover. You know, we all covered that moment, I guess, in his first year as Pope, when he had that extraordinary interview. We talked about who am I as a Pope to judge, and looked at that from several different angles and got a sense of what it meant. You know, when the Pope kneels down and washes the feet of convicts and homeless people and reaches out in that way, it's something that we've found newsworthy as well, again, because it's such an extraordinary gesture from such a powerful person. When he steps into world and political events, and we paid a great deal of attention to his intervention and the helpful role he played in helping broker a deal between the United States and Cuba for normalizing relations. There's no shortage of things the Pope offers us to cover. In some ways, he's been the most, like Pope John Paul II, I think more than Benedict, who was more of a remote figure, is a man who's got a common but even a theatrical touch, which I think becomes a magnet to journalists, especially television journalists.
How would you evaluate the media's coverage of Pope Francis? Like, if you look at it objectively, and maybe speaking specifically from an American context, how do you think it's gone? I mean, do you think it's an accurate depiction of generally
I hope so. I mean, I hope the Vatican thinks so. As well, it's kind of a little more important. You know, we do the best we can. We know we're not going to get everything right. I know there's been a fair amount of commentary about some concern, I think, among those in the Catholic Church who think that we sometimes overplay the gestures in a way that suggests that the Pope is changing doctrine, church doctrine, in a way that he's not. And I think we have to be careful and sensitive about that. But, you know, we also know that the Pope, because of his unique position, ends up being a figure who's important and interesting to people who may not be Catholic, may be lapsed Catholics, may have no faith at all, and we try to cover how his words and deeds affect them as well.
What kind of feedback do you get from viewers or audience about the kinds of stories that you cover, or if you tell an interesting story? I can tell you, it's hard to know exactly, and there's no exact science to this, but you know, we've covered Pope Francis pretty extensively, and whenever we do it, we get we know the audience doesn't turn away. We know it sticks, and we can tell that, and I'm expecting. That's why, you know, we're putting such extensive preparation into coverage of the Pope's trip to the United States later this year, because we do believe it's something that our audience really wants to hear about. Do you see that a figure like the Pope, who is a spiritual authority, not anybody that has any kind of political jurisdiction in the sense of, you know, as a...
He's a spiritual authority, but he's got secular throw weight. I mean, his words matter, and they have an impact. When, you know, the Pope's teachings, several of them on spirituality, on violence, on religious liberty, but, you know, also his teachings on the economy, on the perils of economic inequality and the responsibilities that all of us have to those who are struggling. You know, those directly impact our political debates, our domestic debates here in the United States as well, because those words have meaning, are read, and the faithful and others look to them for guidance, as he's got a powerful voice in these debates.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.